had apprehended him, and when police arrived, the security guard, Jamal, was shot and killed. So what did you do after this? Now, he's not an employee of yours. Why would you care? Why would you get involved other than he just happened to be a community member?
Yeah, just a community member. And when I started hearing more about this kid, when I started hearing more about him, I felt like Jamel was me. Jamel was a 28-year-old young man. He was very active in his church community, where he was a musician. He played the organ. I've been playing the organ since I was 8 years old. So that connected me to him, as well as him being a security officer. That automatically connected me to him. And just hearing some of his backgrounds and kind of struggles to get where he was, and to hear that he wanted to be a police officer and he was studying just to be that, I was really excited to kind of figure out more about this case. And, when I found out that Ian Covey, the Midlothian cop, which is also a SWAT leader, shot 4 times in Jamel's right flank and 1 shot in his back completely, I knew that this is something that I needed to jump on and try to get justice for his family.
Okay, so you step in, and now we know that Chicago is famous for quite a little bit of pushback from the Fraternal Order of Police, and then the thin blue line here can be pretty daunting. So how did you get involved?
Well, the first steps is I like to start from the ground, and we wanted to know why is it that Jamel, why even was other police officers called to this scene? And putting boots on the ground, finding out exactly what transpired there. I found out that a sergeant by the name of Sergeant Shockley, who worked the Robbins Police Department, was on duty, and he was at the scene at the time of the incident. Sergeant Shockley did nothing to prevent Jamel from being killed that night, and I figured he needed to go first. He needed to be fired, and we applied pressure to the Robbins Police Department with sit-down meetings, with protesters in the rain and the sleet, the snow. We went out there. We went out there in bus loads. We went out there in carloads, and just demanded justice that this man be terminated from the Robbins Police Department.
See, this is part of the story that most of us didn't hear. We saw the shocking headlines of Jamel's death, but we didn't necessarily hear about all the advocacy work and the time that was put into it to make sure that this particular officer was held accountable. In fact, it didn't even make headlines that this officer was removed. So would you say that that is because at that time we just didn't have the forefront and the awareness, or would you credit it more towards the tactics that your team had used to pressure the police force?
I think pressuring anybody, nobody likes pressure, that's for one, and no one likes to shine it on them. You find that through celebrities, through anybody, even Donald Trump sometimes don't want the light pointed on him. He doesn't want the cameras pointed on him. And these are people who live their life making money by using cameras. Especially police departments, especially elected officials, they don't like to be asked the tough questions. And I want to ask the tough questions to keep them on their toes, to let them know someone's out here who knows exactly what's going on and what you're doing isn't right. And just to know his background from coming from Chicago to Robbins, to be a sergeant, how he even got there to become a sergeant was just totally negligent on Robbins and how they proceeded with making him a sergeant. So it was a lot of underlining things that accumulated to also was vital to him being terminated from Robbins.
Okay, so let's jump forward a little bit here. So you had this amazing success by all terms from what we've seen nationwide. Now let's fast forward to the George Floyd, the murder in Minneapolis. We all saw the upheaval and the city on fire with passionate people who were trying to make some significant changes. Now you were up there with some other activists from Chicago. What did you hope to achieve by going there?
Well, I know Jamal Green, he he was out there first, and I didn't want to leave him behind, him being the only Chicago advocate out there. I took a trip out there as well. And the first thing I saw when I stepped foot into what I would call ground zero or war zone is just the carnage left by these people who were clearly upset with what had took place to George. I sat there and watched, literally, I wasn't there 2 minutes where I was still watching people loot a liquor store. And when I pulled up, they looked at me and make sure I wasn't the police, I guess, and continued to go in and take liquor out of there. All I could smell was smudge. I smelled the burning the whole time. The whole time I was there, the burning smell did not go away. And it was horrible. It was horrible. Watching these people loot, watching the city really burn down to the ground. As I said, I've only been scared 3 times in my life, and I mean literally scared. Twice was in Minnesota, and when I say scared, it was one of them things where not scared like, oh my God, it was like, yo, where's my mom? I'm scared. Like, I'm really scared. Like, I need my mother. Like, where is she? Just to watch them, I felt their pain. I literally felt their pain. I went to where George was killed at, and just to watch, just to look at that space, and to know that a man died here, and it was people watching his death on live TV, and there was nothing anyone can do about it because the police are the police.
So your experiences from Chicago were vastly different and maybe not something that you had expected to reconcile with Minneapolis. So did that change your perspective at all as an activist in that kind of setting?
No, it didn't. That setting wasn't any different to me from the setting from Laquan McDonald in Chicago. It took 2 years to get justice for Laquan. And I'll tell anybody, be patient. Nothing happens overnight. You will get justice, and it won't be today. It won't be even tomorrow. Might not be next month, but just stay focused. Don't let anyone steer you from getting justice for your loved one, because you can get it, especially when stuff is on camera. I think that's you have to think about all the murders that has happened of people where we don't know their names. We don't know who they are because it wasn't caught on camera. Luckily, we've been able to catch these people, murders caught on camera. Ahmaud Arbery, we caught these murders on camera, and that's why the world, it's not just the city, it's the world that is terrified of the police. They're scared. Like, I've growing up, I love the police. I was never scared of the police. When I saw the police, I was happy. I was like, oh, there's Officer Jones. Hey, Officer Jones. And he waved back. Now it's the middle finger. It's F12. It's just totally, it's crazy. And, that medal used to have a lot of honor in it when you put that badge on. And now I feel like it's just a tool for them to use to kind of abuse it and use their authority in the wrong manner.
I don't want to put you on the spot and get into policy proposals too much, unless, of course, you want to talk about it.
Okay.
But my question is, what we're seeing now, I think we still see the protests going on, which we hope will continue until there's some substantial changes. But what we're seeing right now seems to be performative, like city councils allowing people to paint Black Lives Matter on a street, but avoiding some real changes that will help in the situation that people are so frustrated about.
One of the positive changes that we're having right now, which I believe is in the House, it hasn't got passed yet, but the qualified immunity is very important for the world to have, and it shouldn't be there. Police officers are definitely should be held to another standard, but also when they commit crime, they should be held responsible just like the next person.
You all are white males, you never lived in my shoes, and you do not know what it's like to be an African-American male.
Who in the hell do you think you are?
Mr. Chairman, let me just start by saying I am absolutely sitting here offended and angry as hell. And I want to explain to what we always say is how we refer to each other, my good friends on the other side. By the time I'm finished, you will be clear that we are not good friends. As a black male who went to the 5th best public high school in the country, who was a victim of excessive force, who has a black son, who has worries that you all don't, and to my colleagues, especially the ones that keep introducing amendments that are a tangent and a distraction from what we're talking about. You all are white males, you never lived in my shoes, and you do not know what it's like to be an African-American male. And all I'm saying is, if you are opposed to this legislation, let's just have the vote. But please do not come in this committee room and make a mockery of the pain that exists in my community. Either man up and say you don't believe in it, or let's talk about the real issue. And yes, we're not interested in watered down version of this bill. I'm not interested in equality with all deliberate speed. This is a crisis. People are losing their lives. So if we have other things that we want to fix, then fix them in another bill, fix them at another time. But people are dying as we talk.
You have to keep the momentum with the protesters, with the marches, with the rallies, with the demonstrations. Listen, you can paint whatever you want. You can paint what they say, you can paint a tail on a donkey, but something like that. You can paint Black Lives Matter on the streets all day long. Mm-hmm. As you can see, there's still people that comes across there and throw paint on it. There's still people that comes across it and draw lines through it. You have to pass laws that make sense for everyone. These Black Lives Matter, and people have to understand, we're not saying that all lives don't matter. We're saying that you have to respect and honor Black lives. And once you do that, like people respect white lives. One thing, and I want to touch this, we have been peaceful people forever. Black people have been peaceful forever. It has been the white man who has shown anger and bullying and violence to us. And even now, where we have an opportunity to really change the world and really flip it upside down, we're still peaceful. We're still smiling at white folks. We're still speaking. We're still saying hello. It's a lot of things that we're still doing because that's what type of people we really are. And when you say, oh, well, if that's the case, what about black on black crime? Well, let me clear this up. There's no such thing as black on black crime. There's a such thing as crime. There's no such thing as white on white crime, just like there's no such thing as Chinese on Chinese crime. I've never heard that anywhere, but it happens all over the world. But you'll never hear it. You'll never hear it. I've never heard Chinese on Chinese crime. But we allow the media to stigmatize the people and put in their heads that it's a such thing as black on black crime. There is.
I want to pivot just a little bit because once again made headlines, national headlines, with a recent case that is just a little bit different. So this is out of Joliet, south of Chicago, southwest of Chicago. And there was a gentleman there who was arrested and died in police custody. His name's Eric Lurry. And you were recently part of a protest and a community action to help his spouse, his widow, get some justice and information. She's not getting much from the local police department. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. Eric Lurry was a young man who died in the back of the police car, and the police did not give the proper information to his wife of the cause of death, and it has been going on almost 6 months now. The incident happened on January 28th, and she has been getting nothing but the runaround. She was never told that there was a tape of her husband being murdered. She was never told that he was punched, he was slapped in the face, he was called a bitch. She was never told that. And now you have a city that is covering up their mistake by excuses, by lying. And I'm simply there to let them know that we won't be bullied, and we will get justice for this family, and we will get the truth. We will get all the tapes, and we're getting that. We were supposed to have a transparent sit down on last week to watch a raw video of what happened, just the family. And what I saw was anything but a raw video. I saw a video that was edited. I saw a video that was narrated by the Joliet Police Department to please the family. And when I asked certain questions to Deputy Chief Gavin about policies, he couldn't respond. But when I asked him, did he see anything wrong with this video? His answer was yes. And at that point, I asked him, why is it that the officers in this video are not fired or on administrative leave? And he had no answer for that. And I asked him another question. Why is it that the whistleblower is on administrative leave? Because you send the wrong message now to good cops who maybe wanted to follow in his footsteps and be a whistleblower to other things that are being covered up in the Joliet Police Department. But you're playing the bully game. You're playing, I'm the boss, you're the worker, and you're gonna do what I'm told, what you're told. That's not right. That's not right to the citizens of Joliet. They deserve better. They should get better.
Now, with this particular case, I find it interesting that it was a local Illinois news station who first played the camera, the video for the widow. It was not the police force. She saw it for the first time in front of another journalist. So in addition to that, the police officers in question were investigated for 5 months by internal organizations. Did you get any sort of sense of what those findings were? They are obviously completed, but the excuse that was given was that they were waiting for this 5-month investigation to conclude. What were your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is that that's a bunch of monarchy. That's what I say about that. We talked to the chief on Sunday, and his response to me was they're still doing an investigation. That's another lie. It's been 5 months. They have had even the coroner's office to rule out the Joliet police being the persons who killed them. Now, I've seen about 4 autopsy reports and medical reports. I've never seen where they ruled out the police on that. Their job is to determine the cause of death and rule it either suicide, homicide, or what have you. They did everything but that. They explained that the Joliet police had nothing to do with this, and that's the problem I have. The sergeant report came in about 3 or 4 days after the medical examiner's report. Also, the medical examiner's report stated that they watched the video. And I believe that's to determine how they would shape up and form this their report. I've never seen a medical examiner or a coroner watch a video first, period, and then determine the death of this person. Yes, let's say Eric had fentanyl. Let's say he had cocaine. let's say he had heroin in his system. That's fine. But let's get to the underlying problem here is that he was alive before that sergeant put his hands over his nose and before he put his hands on his neck and suffocated him. Right there in the back of that police car, and these other officers and these lieutenants, there was a lieutenant standing right there, he needed to be fired as well. He allowed this to happen. Eric Lurry was slapped in the face. The deputy chief called it a stunner. He said, that's procedure, that's policy. I asked to see it. He can't show it to me. But here's the funny part. The sergeant wrote on his report that he tried to hit him in his shoulder and he missed. That's in the report. So which one is it? Is it a tactic that you use called the stunner? Because the only person I know that do the stunner is Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's it. Like,
so you yourself became part of this story over the past weekend.
Yeah.
You were arrested as part of the protest. Can you talk a little bit about what happened?
Well, we was demonstrating our rights, and we were actually walking in the street, but I had made it to the gas station, me, myself, and I believe another gentleman. We were in a gas station, and the police pulled in. And then more police pulled in. And next thing you know, it was like they surrounded me. And again, I'm the only one in the gas station. Other people are still protesting on the street because they boxed me in already, told me to get out the street because I'm impeding the roadway. So I had no problem with that. I drove to the Amoco, parked. I was cool. They started getting out their vehicles, saying something to me. I'm saying something back to them. At this time, now we're getting heated. Now my voice is getting louder. We're going back and forth. And I look to my left, and I see someone in cuffs coming towards me. So I walk towards that way, a little step, not that far away. I ask a question, quote, "Hey, what are you arresting him for?" Just like that. When I said that, they said, "Lock him up too, arrest him too." And I'm like, arrest me for what? I'm like, come on, man, y'all tripping. I said, arrest me for what? And at that point, they put handcuffs on me.
So do you feel like that they were targeting you? This is kind of a common tactic we see in protests where they single out somebody who's an organizer or what they consider a ringleader and then arrest that person. Do you feel like that was the case here?
So what I was told when I was in lockup at Joliet is that, quote, we had to cut the head off. And that was a quote. The only thing I could do really was shake my head and discuss, because after that he said, once we arrested you, everybody else kind of left. It was a few people left, but for the most part, the crowd left.
So with now your impending court case, and then all of these situations that we've gone through where you've tried to be a good community advocate, a leader, and help diffuse a situation, stepping back now, taking a look at everything that's going on across the country with the continued fight for basic civil rights, due process, equal protection, what advice would you give to the younger generation who are out here on the front lines and seeing this, living it for the first time, whereas you and I have seen this time and time again?
Yeah. Well, you know what I tell anybody is just keep fighting. Like, you can get knocked down, but it's not how hard you got knocked down. It's how you had the strength to get back up. Getting back up is the hardest part. Me coming out of that jail yesterday and saying, hey, I want to continue to do this, that's the hardest part. It wasn't going to jail. I've been arrested before. That wasn't a problem. But coming back out saying, hey, I want to do the same thing that got me locked up the first time, that's the part that you have to get in your head and say, hey, you know what? It's a lot of people behind me. When I say behind me, I mean, you got your Rosa Parks, you got your Harriet Tubmans, you got your Martins. Martin was the peaceful one, but he died being peaceful. He's in the ground. He died being peaceful. He went to jail hundreds of times for being peaceful. So no one can't tell me, hey, you did something wrong. I did something right. And if it takes me going to jail and eventually one day in life, if it puts me down, I want to make sure that I've changed the world. I did something successful to make my son, which is 5 years old, grow up in a world that is wonderful, that is magnificent. And so my job is not just for me. I'm not here for me. I'm out here for all the little children, all the young adults, and even the adults to say, hey, this is what we need to do. Keep applying pressure, keep marching, keep protesting, don't give up, get up. You understand what I'm saying? And anybody else, I would tell them, yo, if you're not built for this, you need to step up or step out. That's it.
I think this is great advice, and no one could say it better than Stringer Harris. Long history of community advocacy and just being helpful within the community. So I so appreciate you taking the time this evening to talk to me about it and share your thoughts. We will definitely keep up on the Eric Lurry case and watch for you in these ongoing protests. So good luck to you, and our hearts go out to the Lurry family as well. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you.